Okay, so that one's good.
And then that one, you just kind of have to scooch because we're all like on an incline.
And Nikki, you're welcome to speak as needed.
Just 5 more.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Hi there.
Waiting on Mr. Grants.
Everybody ready? It is 6:35 and we are ready to reconvene into open session. First, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence? Mr. Key, can you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please be seated. This is Can we have a certification of closed session when you're ready?
Yes.
Mr. D.
Yes.
Mr. Woodman.
Yes.
Mr. Rittenhouse.
Yes.
Ms. Sheridan.
Yes.
Are there any actions coming out of closed session?
Yes, sir. I recommend that the board approve as discussed and presented in closed session student discipline cases 11A through 11D.
So moved. Motion, we need a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve student cases 11A through D. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We are moving on to the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda or a motion to amend the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We have an agenda. Now we're on to the consent agenda. Are there any items anybody would like to have pulled and voted on separately?
Mr. Chair, we were not all in attendance at our last minute, so it seems prudent to section off the minutes. And so at minimum, unless anybody else has something else they wanna sever.
All right, there's a motion to separate 6A, C, and D from 6B.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve items 6A, C, and D, Alpha, Charlie, and Delta.
All right, there's a motion to approve 6A, C, and D. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. All right, is there a motion to approve 6B?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve 6B. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I abstain. All right, on to public comments. Please understand that we do have a budget public hearing at 7 PM, so whatever we're doing at 7 PM will start the budget public hearing. Once that's completed, we will move back into the meeting. We're at our first round of public comment for tonight's meeting. Any Fluvanna County citizen or employee of the public school system is welcome to speak, and the expectations are that you address our board, not individual members, that you provide your name and voting district, that you do not exceed 3 minutes, the time will be on the televisions, and that you are respectful. The board will not interact with you during public comment, but you are welcome to ask us questions directly following the meeting. And there's a second opportunity for public comment, and then of course at 7 PM there's a budget public hearing. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close the first round of public comment, and we will move on to delegations. Just remember that at 7 PM we have to stop for the public hearing for the budget. And we'll start with the reports from the student liaisons.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have copies this time, so we can go ahead and pass those down.
And we'll have these added into the agenda as well after tonight.
Hey, Charles.
Welcome Natalia and Amina again for your second meeting.
Thank you. To start off, our volleyball team made it to the semifinals and put up an impressive fight against LCA. We're very proud of all of them. They worked super hard. And to add on, the varsity football team has advanced to regionals and will compete against Wilson Memorial this Friday. And there is a spirit bus, so a lot of our student body will be able to attend, which is super awesome to be able to go and support our football team after all of their hard work. And then to add on to more sports, we had 3 senior Division I athletes sign their letters of intent today. Ruby Frazier signed for University of Richmond for track and cross country. Jack Jeffries also committed to Radford University for track and cross country. And Molly McCall signed for volleyball at BCU. And then to add on, Savannah Peterson recently broke the VHSL record of 655 career saves in field hockey and making her the new state record holder. So that was super awesome for her. We're really excited for her. And the Drone Club President Delaney Fury achieved a $5,000 grant from the Virginia Department of Education for STEM, which I am believing they're going to use for a project they have upcoming later in the year, and they're going to use that for transportation to get the whole club to wherever they're going. I don't have much information on that yet. And then the Future Business Leaders of America Club hosted Fluvanna County High School's annual breast cancer walk, where they were able to raise $1,400 from ticket sales and donations. And then Amina will take over now and finish off.
Okay, so our college advisor, Ms. Angelique Schindler, has been providing students with professional clothing to support them as they begin their professional and career development journeys, as well as multiple college tours in the past few months. For student engagement and leadership, students are becoming increasingly confident in advocating for their interests. Student Chris Madison and his peers have petitioned to allow their skate club to take place during Flugo Win, which is our high school club times. Braden Johnson and Jack Jeffries are sharing their creative passions by inviting the student body to their band. This upcoming performance is this Friday at 4 to 8 p.m. at Lake Monticello's main beach, and entry is free. 10 local election candidates had a town hall discussion / Q&A with advanced senior government classes to better inform students about their policies and provide insights into their campaigns, which proved very helpful. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Any questions from the board?
Are you team waffle or pancakes?
I actually have not looked into that yet. I've been ignoring the emails, but Mr. Barnett was very passionate about the waffle team. Gave us a lecture about it today.
I saw a video today with Mr. Reed eating donuts. Was it pancakes or waffles? I don't know. Some breakfast thing faster than the students could.
Yes, the donut eating competition.
Was it donuts?
Yes.
That was the third party, right? The donuts, I think, was the
Yeah.
Mr. House in the third party.
See.
Any more questions from the board? This skate club, I'm guessing that's like skateboarding?
Yes.
Got it. All right.
You're ready to break out those inlines, right?
They're, I guess they're just wanting to skateboard around the high school?
Yeah.
Yes. It was a club in previous years, but they would like to bring it back.
So we'll see. All right, any more questions? All right, reports from the superintendent, and we got about 14 minutes before the budget public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I think I'll start with mine and then maybe after the hearing, so you're not interrupted, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I have a lot of things to share with you, everybody. What's attached in there, don't need to necessarily pull it up, but I'd love for folks to take a look at the district choir results and the middle school results. We do have a #1 baritone in there. So in my report, there's a lot in here, a lot of events for you to consider, some celebrations. For the sake of time, I'd like to highlight a couple of things. If you go, Dr. Stribling, I think, scroll down a little bit. Yeah, right there. I'd love to just share this if you can't read the screen. We had students from Central Elementary that went on a field trip to the Science Museum in the Children's Museum, portion of the Science Museum in Richmond. And we received this very encouraging note from the staff there. We usually never do these kinds of shout outs. This was from the education director. But your students, teachers, and chaperones were amazing on their field trips the last 2 days. Not only did I see it firsthand and receive word from multiple departments, our education director, all of the educators, several guest departments, services members and managers, that everyone on the trip was great to have in the museum, in the classrooms. My educators went on and on about how lovely and excited the students were in the classrooms. They also mentioned how nice it was to have such attentive, loving parents in the room. I hope that these words can be forwarded to your principal because you all deserve an award or something. That was just a wonderful thing to receive, obviously, and speaks volumes about the staff and the students and the parents at Central Elementary. What I'd like to do, Dr. Stribling, if you could click the link above this to a PowerPoint presentation. I'd love to share with you some of the work that I've done with our Student Superintendent Advisory Committee members. This is a group of middle school students that I've met with. These groups were established at each school, not Central Elementary. I'm not opposed to meeting with students at Central, primary grade students. That we worked with Ms. Barnaby, and we thought maybe right now that wasn't something that would be feasible for them, but maybe in the future we'll work with them. But at the other 3 schools, to give me an opportunity to dialogue with them, I come in with some prompted questions that I'll share with you, and I've had unbelievable conversations with these students about their school experience and about what's happening. So, am I geared up to use? Okay, fantastic, thank you. All right. Okay, so the purpose of the committee, it's at Carriesbrook, the middle school, high school, listen to their ideas, hear from them what they believe would make their school experience even better. Each committee, I will meet with each school twice each semester. I met with them last month, and I'll meet with them again the first week in December, and then again twice in the second semester. And the last meeting will be all groups coming together. I'm not sure what I'm doing here, Dr. Stribling, but these are just the, you might need to run it.
Okay.
I don't know. These are the categories of questions that I'll share. We don't have to necessarily go over those, but next slide after this. So these are the questions. I turn that off, maybe?
There we go, right there.
Next slide, thank you. It does not want you all to see those questions. So at Carriesbrook, what's your favorite thing about your school day? We start with a little icebreaker to get them talking. Obviously, the first time I meet with them, they're a little bit, little shy, a little nervous, but if you could be principal for the day, something like that, what would you do? It didn't take long for them to open up. And then these became discussion starters, but really they ran with it from there. What is it that makes a good friend at school? Do you feel like everyone has someone at play or work with at school or during recess in class? If you could design a new space for kids at your school, a classroom or a playground or a lunchroom, something like that, what would it look like? How would you design it? And what's something that you wish adults at school knew about being a student? Had some great conversation with them. Next slide, Dr. Stribling. At the middle school, how do your teachers make learning fun or interesting? Do students have chances to share their ideas or opinions with teachers or principals? Do you feel safe at school? Do you feel safe on the bus? What are you most proud of at your school? And what words would you use to describe the culture of your school? Again, wonderful conversations with these students. And then at the high school, similar questions. Again, started with that. What words would you use to describe the culture? How engaging are your classes? What helps you stay motivated? How can students have a stronger voice in school decisions? What kinds of support do students need most right now? That one brought a lot of conversation. What would make you most proud to come back and visit your school 5 years from now? So I'll meet with them again in December. This is a group from Carriesbrook. I didn't get a picture with the high school students, but just wanted you to be aware. I'm really looking forward to the data that I'm getting and sharing that with our principals. And in some format, maybe to be able to share it here. I want to be sensitive to the confidentiality of the kids and make sure they feel like it's a safe space, but mainly just wanted you to be aware of it. It's a highlight of my time to spend time with those kids.
Good.
Yes, sir. You can go back to the report. So again, there's a ton in here. I don't want to read it all to you. And I guess I was trying to buy a little time because I don't want you all to be interrupted, but I mean, if you want to go ahead and get
It's
started.
got 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention the whistling?
Absolutely.
That
So-
could get you some time.
Yeah, this wasn't on the report, but it is something that we've discussed with the school board and it's something that will be a part of our conversations with regards to the budget. There's considerable interest in the community among parents and students at the high school level and middle school to begin a female wrestling program. That is a VHSL recognized sport and it's recognized in the Jefferson District now. We do have more and more schools that have designated female wrestling teams. And so we are hopeful to be able to support that team moving forward. We've gotten some cost analyses about what it would take to start, I think, this season. The season actually has already started. But this season, what we'd probably be able to do is take wrestlers interested in participating to girls wrestling tournaments. At this point, all schools they already have a schedule that's built out, so even if we could start the program immediately, it'd be hard to get them worked into the Jefferson district, and certainly welcome any conversation from the board if that's of interest now, but just to make everybody aware that there is interest and there's momentum, I think, here to support that, and we look forward to working on that.
Any feedback from the board?
Mr. Gretz.
Yes, sir.
So whatever we decided, really, they could more than likely be on the schedule for next year?
Yes.
Yeah, but not necessarily this year.
It'd be I don't wanna say impossible, but those schedules are built out in the fall, so it'd be hard to work them into the schedule this season. And there is cost involved, obviously. We'd have to purchase another wrestling mat, we'd have to purchase the equipment, we'd have to secure a coach, we'd have to secure the stipend for the coach. So it'd be hard to do the regular season, if not impossible, to do that this season. There are quite a few tournaments that would not have had to be scheduled that they could participate in, just to have that experience this year, but it would be primarily for the next season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And then that 15 to 20 grand is something that you'll bring to us during budget season because it requires a capital investment.
Yes. Yes.
So is there any method for funding once you could participate in the tournaments without having an actual schedule and team per se to do that now?
The way that we would be able to do that if, I think the ideal scenario would be to support uniforms, headgear, and a stipend for a coach to do that because it's outside of the regular season. I don't wanna, I just haven't had the conversations with the coaching staff. I don't know if there are existing coaches that would wanna take that on or if we'd be looking for a separate coach to do that. There are female wrestlers who have participated in our wrestling program and some now. But in terms of having a designated distinct program separate from the male, I just think there's some logistic work to be done there, but best case scenario, if we had uniforms, we had travel expenses, we could pay a coach to do that or a sponsor to do that, to take them, if not an existing coach, we should be able to support that now.
But we'd
And I'll
have
keep the
to,
board updated about that.
okay. I was gonna say, there's some like equipment stuff that we need to purchase if that were going to be the case. I also wanna make sure that we have our logistics ironed out at the beginning of the season so that students who come out for this new program don't feel as though the program is not being supported or doesn't have the right place to practice or timeshare on mats or any of those things. And so I really don't wanna launch something half-baked mid to late year.
Sure.
And then have a class of students feel like we kind of phoned this one in. So I can see both sides. I also don't wanna put students into a tournament setting if they haven't had any regular practice at all. I suspect we also need to do some insurance things as we add additional sporting into our catalog. I don't know to what extent we need to include those specifics in our rider, but it would be nice if at the beginning of the next school year, if this is something that is funded during the budget process, that we've ironed out everything we need to make a robust push at our first season.
Absolutely. Agreed. Is there anything in the report that you would like me to go into more detail on, or do you have any questions about any of those things? There's a winter coat drive that's going on in this building. really throughout the school division. Some great Spirit Week activities that happened at the high school. We had, I put a comment that I received from a parent in there as well, very encouraging. We have information that we'll share with you later in the agenda regarding the budget.
We have about 2 minutes.
Trying to think of, I could go into any of these things, I don't,
Food drive.
what's that?
I'll do them.
Non-perishable
Oh, yeah, why don't you,
Want me to talk about
yeah,
that?
go ahead.
Sure.
That's a great idea.
Okay, great.
2 minutes.
I'm Caitlin. So we are having a coat drive with drop off by November 14th. We have boxes at all of the schools. There's gonna be this really great event called In the Name of Shad. When the
22nd.
November 22nd, thank you, Jessica.
It's always the Saturday right before Thanksgiving.
Where this amazing group has tons of turkeys donated. Last year, 300 turkeys donated, and canned food and non-perishable food. And we also like to have jackets. We have jackets, hoodies, coats, because a lot of kids need those. So we have that.
Is there a box here?
Yes. And then we also have our non-perishable food drive, which we're doing at the same time. And we have been doing a lot of food with the schools. That's really great. The In the Name of Shot event is for anyone in our community to come out that may need food.
A lot of the food in years past, the SGA has really worked hard on those canned food drive initiatives the past couple of years, and that's been really helpful, so we're doing that. We appreciate it.
Can you email me and remind me? Because I have a whole tote of coats I can bring in. I'm looking for a place to take
I'm
them.
gonna do it right now.
I'll forget if you don't email me
That's
then.
okay, thank you.
All right, we have, it is 7 o'clock and we are at our budget public hearing. This public hearing is specific for the fiscal year 27 budget. So if you have comments other than that, please save them for the end in the second round of public comment. The expectations are the same exact expectations as the first round of public comments, but remember that these comments are specific to the fiscal year 27 budget. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Anybody signed up? All right, one more time. Anybody wishing to speak about the fiscal year 27 budget? All right, we're moving on to the budget update. Ms. Juarez.
Do you mind, before we do
Yeah, go ahead.
that, so at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about attendance and truancy, absenteeism. And I had asked some folks to do a presentation for you, a brief one about some of the interventions that we have in place and some of the things that we're doing. The board was requesting some information about that. And so at this time, I'd love to invite Jessica and Caitlin up to walk you through a little bit of that work that's been done.
Hear from us again. Oh, thank you, Dr. Stribling. Okay, ready for us? So I'm Caitlin. I'm the mental health coordinator for Fluvanna, and this is Jessica Lavin. She's our student outreach specialist. Not with us is Melanie Whitlow, who's our school social worker. She's not here tonight. You can go to the next one. So we were tasked with talking about attendance. Part of our team is to oversee attendance from a district level, so supporting the schools related to chronic absenteeism and truancy. And so we wanted to just start with just some information about what chronic absenteeism is. A student is considered chronically absent if he or she misses an average of 2 or more instructional days per month, regardless whether they are excused or unexcused. And all this information we're pulling from VDOE as well. Thank you, Dr. Stribling. Go back. Yep, right there. So just some quick facts. Children who are chronically absent in preschool, kindergarten, first grade are much less likely to read on grade level by 3rd grade. Students who can't read at grade level by 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. By high school, regular attendance is a better dropout indicator than test scores. And a student who is chronically absent in any year between 8th to 12th is 7 times more likely to drop out of school. So those are some big numbers, in my opinion. So this is the chronic absenteeism breakdown just from the last few years. And I wanted to point this out because specifically in the school year from 2022-2023 to 2023-2024, there was a huge change. That huge change came from that all-in funding and that attendance outreach position that we had. So bringing that position on in November 2023, we were able to continue to reduce that number. Currently, we do not have that position. So breaking the numbers down, again, this is from VDOE, the numbers down, chronic absenteeism by school, and just kind of showing a trajectory across the last couple of years. So you can kind of see those numbers. And keeping in mind, chronic absenteeism is excused and unexcused absences. Truancy is only looking at unexcused absences. I just always like to make that distinction.
What makes that distinction? So what is the definition of an excused versus unexcused?
So an excused absence is when a parent is aware and has made us aware that the student is going to be absent. So you call and you say, Johnny has a doctor's appointment today, he won't be there, excused. If you do not call us, we're gonna mark him as absent because we're not gonna know. But you will get an automated phone call, and at 5 days, we'll send a letter, which we'll talk about that too.
What's the deal with the excused absence, but you can attend on your computer at the high school?
That's a great question, and it's a complicated question. It really depends on the student. And so some students have plans where they are on Apex for different reasons, whether they're in the Apex lab or if they're home-based or homebound. So it really depends on the circumstance. Am I missing anything with that? Jessica?
So you can be the way I understand it from some teachers now is you can be in the classroom today and tomorrow your parent can say, we're gonna attend virtually. And that's gonna be an excused absence?
No, we would not excuse that, in my opinion. Correct, yeah, we would not excuse that.
There's some teachers that are under that impression right now.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk more about that. But you have to physically be in the building for it to be, for you to physically be there, right? Unless you have a specific plan. And so there are kids that have certain plans where they may have partial days because of medical needs or IEP needs or mental health needs. It really just depends on the student. But I'm glad you said that. We'll look into that.
And we did away with the work release program as well, for the most part, right? That's completely changed.
Well, we didn't do away with it, but the state mandates that if you're doing work release, you have to be working in a place that is tied to the curriculum of a course that you're a CTE course.
Which is unbelievable. But the state says we can't change that.
Right.
So I also pulled some numbers from surrounding counties just so we can kind of put into perspective. And keeping in mind, what I don't have here is enrollment numbers. So all of these counties are different sizes. But I want to talk first about the really great things that we have in Fluvanna. We have great partnerships with local agencies. We have a multidisciplinary attendance team that we target attendance initiatives and ways that we can support families in our community. We have a partnership with our sheriff's office and our SROs that help us build community and relationships. Specifically, some of these counties, like Albemarle, for instance, which is much bigger than ours, they have an entire team devoted just to attendance, just to addressing attendance. And so those numbers are a little bit wonky, I think, just because every school division is different in the access to resources that they have. We are very fortunate that the resources that we do have, we are very connected with. Am I forgetting anything? Okay, so.
Can I ask?
Yes,
a
sir.
question? If we go back to that, sorry about that. So we clearly have some like disparate level setting, right? So Louise at 877, and we know that they have a team of 5 or 10 or whatever it is, attendance folks. And then, you know, maybe Albemarle has a team, et cetera. Like, our numbers are starting in 22, 23, and I don't know what they were like pre-pandemic. Our numbers are like substantially different and higher than other divisions. Do we have any notion of whether or not that was the case before COVID and or what makes this community unique such that we're getting so many chronically absent students?
Yeah, good questions. These are all good
These
questions.
are really good questions. Do you want to say something?
I think, you know, while we don't have data in this presentation today that talks about pre-COVID, I think from what we've seen though, when we've been looking, there were still significant attendance concerns even pre-COVID. We do talk a little bit about what some of the other counties might be doing, and I think it's an ongoing conversation of looking at what is working for other areas, what is realistic for us to do, and kind of the differences in the processes and how things are being implemented.
Do we think we're all counting the same way?
I don't
Is
know
a
that.
student in Fluvanna who's marked as chronically absent, would they have gotten the same designation in a different county?
I don't know. That's a great question.
That's what I was wondering, yeah. So much of.
I think there are definitely differences in the way those codes are being implemented across the state.
I suspect so, especially looking at Louisa in comparison to us, which is dramatically different.
I mean, don't they have 15 or, I think you said 50 once, but I think it's more like a dozen attendance.
They do, I think they have 5. I think they have 5 people that just focus on that higher level intervention around attendance. And so right now, the division attendance team is also the division mental health team. And so we're kind of acting in both roles, but we have school-based folks along with our administrators and our school counselors that are all working together to address attendance in the school. And we'll talk about that too. Thank you for the question. Go ahead, sir. Okay, so this actually breaks down a bit more about unexcused absences. And so again, we're just looking at unexcused when it comes to how we address truancy and how we navigate attendance. There are lots of kids that may have excused absences for medical reasons, for lots of reasons that we as a team support the schools with, but we don't address in this way. This way is the only way we address unexcused, and that's by following this code. So anytime a student misses 5, 7, or 10 days, unexcused, meaning the parent has not communicated with us. During that time, they will have gotten a phone call, like an automated phone call. They will get a phone call from the attendance person in the office. Usually their school counselor will reach out. Their coach might reach out. Lots of people are reaching out in different ways, email, phone call. Usually during that time, if it's a student that it's really unlike them and we haven't been able to get in touch with, we might go on a home visit. Just depends on the circumstance. But around day 10 or by the 10th absence of unexcused, we do something called an attendance improvement plan. And this is a plan where we invite the family in by phone, by video, in person, whatever is most appropriate and works best for the family, the student, and then their people, their school counselors, their admin, their coach, their IEP case manager. If they have a relationship with a teacher that is like a mentor to them, we would invite them in. And during that meeting, we would say, you're missing these days. What can we do? How can we help you? Why are you missing these days? Are you missing these days because something's happened in your family? Are you missing these days because you don't have running water anymore? Are you missing these days because there's just been a lot of change, or you're feeling a lot of pressure? Whatever it is. And we try to problem solve that. And we problem solve that. And at the high school, right now, the high school is the only school we have that is doing our attendance buyback program. And what we really try to encourage our high schoolers to do is to buy back those days, where they stay after school typically with one of the administrators, and they stay for a portion of time where they have to do work from class, they have to turn the work in, that then helps to buy back that time. And so the equivalent is like, don't let me butcher this, I think it's 3 hours for it. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dr.
I
Gretz?
do, yeah, I don't know the numbers, but this is very similar to what we saw in Louisa when we
Yes.
visited. They're doing it on Saturdays. If the child's absent, they come back on Saturday, they make up time. And then, this is jumping ahead a little bit to Mr. Pullen's question, but then that child is marked present, even though they weren't. They're marked present because they made up.
And that's how we document that. We say that the student then came in on this date to make this date up.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but so I'll just use myself as an example. It's always been very difficult for me to take a traditional week-long vacation in the summer. It's much easier for me to get away in late September, something like that, which is what my family did for years. And we would take our kids out of school for a week. And the school would typically give us work, and they would, when they got a little bit older and their computers involved, they would log on, they would do all their classwork, they would get credit for that time. They weren't marked present because they weren't present, but they weren't penalized either. They were excused absences. I haven't been able to do that, obviously, because my kids are older now. They can't really miss a week of high school. When the state changed, all that was about the child. It wasn't about whether or not the school recorded whether Pete Gretz's kids were there or not. It was about whether they were penalized academically for not doing work, for not being present. When the state changed, I'm trying to think of how to explain this, but when they changed the excused, unexcused definition, and it no longer was about recording whether Pete Gretz, whether my kids were in class doing work, it now is about holding schools accountable for my kids being in the building. Then the whole notion that I could take my kids for a week to the beach, have them do a packet of work and log into all that is out the window. Because the school's gonna be held accountable for my kids not being there, even though they're getting credit for all the work they're doing. So the state came up with a designation where you could code my kids as present.
Present remote.
Yeah, present remote, which is I think what you're getting at.
That's.
I think that's what you're talking about also.
And so there's a mechanism where schools can do that. Obviously, there's the possibility for somebody to abuse that maybe. We don't wanna have kids just willy-nilly, just I'm not coming to school today, so I'm gonna be present remote. But that has been the difficulty, and I think that as everybody has transitioned to the way it's being done now, you got 132 school divisions, they're all trying to figure that out, and I think they're all coding it a little differently, defining that differently, just trying to handle those anomalies. I didn't mean to take
No,
over the
I'm glad that you
presentation.
said that, because I forgot about present remote. Present remote is something that is
That's the term
used.
that actually was used. I remember.
And it's a principal's discretion too. So like if a family knows in August, like, we're gonna be gone for a family reunion for these 4 days, I don't want Johnny to fall behind, can he still do work? That's where they can communicate with the administrator. So I'm glad we talked about that.
With the caveat that work is being completed while
Correct.
they're out. And so that's kind of the communication piece between
And
the
that's
school and the
always been
families.
the case.
Yes.
You'd have some family that would say, we're going to Italy for 10 days and there's educational value there and they'd work out something. Now, what's different though is that you have to figure out how the state is gonna hold the school accountable for this new accreditation factor of attendance. Even though all the work's being done, if you're not in the building, you have to account for that somehow.
It's not uncommon for us to see student cases that have, it's beginning of November. I think I just saw one that was well over 40 absences. Or at what point do we hold the parents accountable?
That is a great question.
Go ahead.
Well, and it really depends on how old the child is, the student. The process for that is kind of handled a little differently along the way if it's an elementary student versus a high school student. Because a high school student is going to be more so bigger in size. The parents can't physically pick them up and put them on the school bus. Whereas an elementary student is much more so reliant on the adults in the house to kind of make sure that they're getting up on time, that they're getting on the bus or getting a ride in. And so if we've still done our attendance improvement plan and we're still having significant attendance issues, then for an elementary child, we can and we have had to do sometimes a referral through the magistrate for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And then for the high school students, it does at times become a chin's truancy. And so we really look to see what the barriers are and see what else can be put in place and problem solve, like Caitlin said, what else can be done, but that does sometimes happen. And so with the contributing to the delinquency of a minor, it's the guardian and adult that is responsible for that. That kind of helps.
And so once we get to that 10-day attendance improvement plan, we're very clear in those meetings with families and saying like, this is what our Virginia code says and this is what we're obligated to do, but also we want your kid to come to school. And so let's figure out how we can do that together. Typically, once a kid gets closer to 18 days, which is more of that 10%, is when we kind of, I don't want to say amp up, but that's where we start really doing many more home visits. Sometimes our SRO will come with us, where we are calling and communicating in any way possible. Because we really want the families to hear us say, like, we're just trying to help. And we want your kid here. Yes?
How receptive are, so I don't know how frequently you end up with an attendance improvement plan or how often you make an invite and folks do or don't show. So if you could use like a fairly broad brush, how receptive are families to these meetings and what seem to be the largest obstacles that keep students from being in the building without their parents notifying us in advance?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and there's a slide on that too. I will say too that sometimes when we set up meetings, we have to do so multiple times. And then sometimes it does get to a point where we hold the meeting without the family. And the piece too that often, sometimes if it's an older student specifically before it goes to court, it will go through diversion as well too.
And that means that we are at the point where we've kind of exhausted all of our options in communication with the family and with the student. During that time, they've reached that, close to that 18 days. We're looking at their grades. Also, I really want to add that in. I want to look at that academic impact that they may be having, if they're on a sporting team, things like that. And then if we do have to file a petition with our court services unit, it kind of goes into their hands then. We're going to still work with the family. We're still going to be calling them. We're still going to be showing up. We're going to still be like, that kid's going to come to school and we're going to be in their face really excited. But it becomes another level of intervention where court services can make a decision about how they navigate that. Sometimes it becomes a CHIN supervision, which is a child in need of services supervision, which is related to truancy. And that is where the student and their family then have to come in front of our judge and they get court ordered to come to school. And we are there as the petitioners, but also as the supporters. We want to figure out, you told us at day 10 that you are struggling with your mental health. We've offered you these mental health services. You have not taken us up on it. Take us up on it now. Let's get you the help that you need so you can be successful.
So what you're saying is if you know that your kid is sick, all you gotta do is call the school and let them know.
All you have to do. The definition of an excused absence is parent is communicating, parent
But
aware.
I don't think everybody knows that.
That is correct.
Because my son was sick and I did not call the school. I will call the school.
But you just got credit.
Right. I'm saying, I
Yeah,
will
he's
call
got
the school
credit for
so
that,
they'll
yeah.
get credit.
Yeah, or email. And that's the thing is that families can do that 60 times a year and those all become excused.
But you gotta be careful if you tell people that.
Well,
That might
but-
get screwed enough.
But so what's difficult about that is, and I think a big part of like why we're talking about all this is we're 3 division people, pretending Melanie is here, addressing unexcused absences. We don't have a ton of resource to address excused absences. And we do have families that know that. And so we try to be really transparent with them. If we see a kid that is missing, 20 days, all excused, our attendance folks in the building are already all over that. They're calling the family like, why are they excused? Again, what's happening? They seem sick a lot. Do you guys need help getting to the doctor? We'll help you get to the doctor. Like, what can we do? So we're still trying to offer intervention. We just don't have the greatest capacity because there are a lot of kids that have unexcused absences.
And keep in mind, it's just the change, excused or unexcused doesn't matter in
Right.
terms of the absentee rate. My son had surgery on his knee a couple months ago. He missed 3 days of school. There's a doctor's note, it was excused, I knew about it, we told the school about it. Those 3 days are gonna count against the high school. That's the other thing. So you're trying to address
Yes.
situations where it's unexcused, where parents are basically saying, I don't know what to do, can you help us?
Correct.
Or they're not engaged. The situations where they are engaged, they're still part of that overall number.
And I think especially at Central, because it seems like it's a little bit
Yes.
disproportionate. I don't know the number, but my own family, I have a child that I transport to speech and OT and previously PT and in pre-K checked out half days to go to ABA and alternated schedules.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's room for that to be counting against you all too, even though it's a very collaborative use
Sure.
of like the school with the
Yes.
ancillary services. So it's a good thing, but it doesn't look that way on attendance.
Correct. And we have students that have chronic illness, right? That may have many doctor's appointments. We're going to excuse those, but there may be 30 of them.
I mean, I do it once a week.
Right? And so we're gonna have that group of families that are gonna kind of fall into that bucket. But then we're also gonna have families that know, like Mr. Key said, that you can just call us and make us aware. We're still gonna monitor that. What I really want just to be heard is that our capacity is really at the unexcused absences. And I do think some of it is the coding, like Dr. Gretz talked about. But I do think some of it is that other districts have people that only do this. That's their only job. And I jokingly talk about Jessica, who's our second chance fan. Jessica brings students to school every single day. I am not kidding. Every single day, different students. If we did not have her, those kids would not come to school because they don't want to come to school. And so I'm just gonna shout that out for Jessica Lavin because she does that and that is overlooked quite a bit. So going just a little bit further, after we are starting to put some of these student outreach interventions in place, we're trying to connect with resources, we're doing home visits, maybe we've made a court referral. We do this in partnership with the schools because everything kind of has to happen in the school because we're the division staff and the schools really have the most impact in being able to help students get there because they know them better than we do. You can go to the next one, sir. And so these are our school attendance administrative assistants. And there are 4 of them, 1 for each school. 3 of the 4 of them have dual roles. So Brandy Kennedy at our middle school, she oversees attendance and she also oversees, she's the school registrar. And she will even tell you that sometimes balancing those can be tough because you could get a lot of new students coming in at once or things happening, and then also students that need to have follow-up. And so these are the folks that when you're calling the school and you're saying Kennedy's gonna be out for a doctor's appointment, and I let Abby know, Abby's gonna mark that as an excuse because I've made her aware. One thing that I do, I just thought about this. One thing that we did not realize as a division team, really until this school year, and that was the help from our multidisciplinary team, which some of those folks are here. The definition of an excused absence is that parent is aware and in agreement. So, if you have a 16-year-old who is refusing to come to school and you call the school and say, I cannot get Johnny out of this house. There's nothing, I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do. He's absent again today, but I don't agree with him being absent. He's going to be marked unexcused, or absent, excuse me. And so,
And unexcused.
And unexcused.
which the A for absent is unexcused. The E for coding purposes, if we're talking about that, then E is excused. But that is a change as far as us being able to utilize that this year.
And there are a lot of families that will reach out to us and say, I don't know what else to do. I can't throw them over my shoulder, they're double my size. And usually by that point, Jessica or Melanie's gone out to the home, people that, we're having teachers reach out, coaches. Sometimes kids just don't want to come to school. And there are lots of reasons for that I could talk about forever. But you can go ahead, Dr. Stribley. So we're the division attendance team, and you already know who we are. We oversee all of our mental health services in our schools. And really, I think kind of how attendance became part of our, under our umbrella is because we were learning very quickly that a lot of the kids that were becoming truant were because they were having unmet needs, student outreach needs, mental health needs, just basic human needs. And so sometimes kids don't want to come to school at the beginning of the year because they don't have money to get a haircut. Well, we did a back to school bash and we gave people haircuts. And so we're trying to bridge those areas. But a lot of it takes money and resources and staff. And so you can go ahead, Dr. Stribley. So some of the things that we really try to do is prevention. And so it kind of all starts with this positive school culture and climate, and someone talked about that. But outreach events related to attendance, we do a lot of community and lunch and student incentives, check-ins, check-outs. So if we have a student who is having a really hard time in their first block class because there is just peers in there that they really struggle with and they don't want to interact with them, we'll talk to the teacher and you'll sit on different sides of the room. Like, we try to problem solve because for some of these kids, these issues feel massive. Like, the idea of even seeing that person in the hall prevents me from coming to school. Okay, well then let's see if we can take you down a different hall, or you can leave class 2 minutes early to get to your other class so you're not in the hallway with the rush. There are things that we can do. And then the attendance buyback program, but then also just relationships. I think that relationships is the one piece of this that we don't talk about enough. When kids have trusted people in the building, people that they know that they can rely on, they will come to school. We just have to build that capacity with them. And then partnering with SGA. SGA does amazing things, coming down to Central and being mentors. Our sporting teams do that as well. So we have a lot of really positive things that are happening, but there's still a lot of need that we need to have as well. You can go to the last one, Dr. Stribley. So this is our last one. So we have lots of agency partnerships. We have a multidisciplinary attendance team that meets, that talks about ways that we can work together to help fix the community-based concerns, right? Because as a school, we're kind of limited on what we can do. There's a lot we can do, but when we kind of get to that point where we have to hand it off to court services, for instance, it puts us in a situation where we don't want to burn rapport with the family, but we also don't want to fail a kid, and we want a kid to be there and to support a family. And so we try to be very supportive. We have really great partnerships, like I said, and they're growing. We're building new relationships with people all the time. So that's all I got. That's all I got for you guys. Do you have questions for us? Additional questions that you have for us?
I did find a reference point for pre-COVID.
You did?
I did. So in 17-18, we were at 19.6%.
Okay.
Louisa was at 9.3%. If you were
Okay.
curious. And then in 18-19, we were at 17%. Louisa was at 7.8%. So
Okay.
roughly 18% average before, and Louisa was still around 8%. So.
Okay. That's really great to know. Thank you for finding that. Any other questions for us?
All right, thank you.
We appreciate y'all.
Sorry, I do. Are you ever surprised by the outcomes of your interventions? So you've got a kid, you've been calling home, they hit the magic number and you say, okay, look, let's sit down at the table. With what frequency are families disinterested in engaging, and or are you surprised at the rationale for why our student hasn't been in the building for that length of time?
Yes. Because sometimes, like I said, for these kids, some of these issues feel so massive, and we have such a quick fix for them. And so it may be I don't have any shoes that are clean that I can wear to school every day. It might be that I'm having peer conflict with these peers that are in my classes, and every time I come in, they're always saying things to me, and I feel like I'm telling people and nothing's happening. Okay, well, let's address that. Let's do a mediation. Let's figure out how we can address that. Unfortunately, though, there is a generational understanding about the importance of attendance, and so we do see a trend in families that have lived in Fluvanna, whose parents maybe didn't graduate or maybe had a hard time attending school regularly also, and their kids kind of fall into that as well. The other thing that I think is important to point out is that once a child reaches the stage of court intervention, when it's kind of out of our hands, sometimes families will be frustrated and say, okay, well, we're going to homeschool at this point. That doesn't take away the court involvement or the support. In fact, we're just involved even more because we want to be able to stay engaged with that kid and that family. Can you think of anything else?
Well, I would say yes and no, because sometimes the student's response to a situation that may be perceived this size is sometimes this size, the response. And sometimes we have the same students that for years have had significant attendance concerns. And like Caitlin said, sometimes they do end up deciding to homeschool once we start to kind of put more pressure on. And I think, it is frustrating because we can come up with lots of interventions, but sometimes it doesn't mean that the family or the student is going to take advantage of those.
And I think our most difficult situations, in my opinion, at least my most difficult situations, are the parents that are coming to us saying, I have to go to work in the morning. I wake Johnny up and tell him to get on the bus. I call him a million times. I lay out his clothes. I pack his lunch. I do all the things. All he has to do is stand up, put his clothes on, brush teeth, and walk out the door. And he still doesn't. Mom can't quit her job, right? Dad, grandparent. And so parents that become very frustrated with their kids who maybe they're struggling or maybe they just don't want to come to school. Because we do have kids that will just say, I don't like school, I don't want to come.
And would you say the majority of those incidents, there's not a male role model in the house to?
Yeah, actually, I would.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah, and I think it's dependent on the family situation too. We have a lot more than I anticipated kids that are being raised by grandparents in our community for lots of reasons. And I think not having your parents or a parent figure consistently in your life can be really detrimental.
We spend a lot of time with the students and the families talking about finding ways to overcome and being resilient and what else can be done and how do you push through even when things are hard, and seeing what we can do to support, and then also figuring out what they can do too.
And it can be really impactful for our high school students, especially the students that are in 12th grade, to put it in the context of you have to graduate. You got to be here because you need these 2 classes. You got to graduate. We got to figure out a way. And also, when you work a job, when you are in a career, you can't just no-show. You'll get fired. And then how will you pay your bills and take care of your family? And so we try to frame it as you have goals, we want you to achieve them, but you can't achieve them if you don't have regular attendance.
And sometimes it's cyclical because once a child is out for a little bit and then they feel like they're behind academically, then they feel overwhelmed, and then they say it's harder for them to come in knowing that they're failing, and so then they're out more and it just builds and builds.
When I was in school, we had Coach Stump, and he would come to your house in that old school car, and he would get you and bring you to school, and you didn't argue with him. Do we have someone
Not allowed
Have
to
a
do
coach
that.
dump.
We also have
Saying-
we have SR, there's some of us that do go out to the homes. I think the difference is that sometimes we still have kids that look at us when we get there, even when it's SROs, and say,
And
no,
won't
I'm
open the
not
door.
coming.
We have students that will not open the door, even if we come with our SROs. And so that can be very frustrating, even if we're like, we have breakfast out here, we have these things for you. It doesn't work always. We try though.
So in response to seeing sort of the aggregate absenteeism numbers last month, the majority of the board voted in favor of carryover requests that included 2 half-year attendance aids. When we go down the hill on December 3, one of the questions that any reasonable board member might say is, well, what are they gonna do? What are these 2 roles gonna do in order to help absenteeism? And to be fair, you didn't directly ask us for them. You had one last year, you don't now.
Correct.
So what are the things that if we are able to secure funding for these 2 half roles, and sorry, I didn't tell you in advance I was gonna ask this.
No, that's okay.
I know, we know each other long enough that, I'm gonna ask
That's okay.
wild card questions from this side of the table. But what is it that I can tell the Board of Supervisors about providing these 2 positions for the half year? What are they going to do that will free you up to do other things? Or
Yeah.
what is it that, like, how many more bodies and or doors can we get to in the morning to ensure that our kids get here?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that I didn't wanna say, but I will say, cause you said it, we spend a lot of time addressing chronic absenteeism. And that is only one portion of what my mental health team does. We oversee all mental health initiatives. We oversee sources of strength, our suicide prevention, which is very needed in our community. We have a substance use program. We do lots of student outreach and intervention. We oversee the clothing closet. We do lots of things. And attendance takes up a lot of time. Having folks that can just focus on attendance, and not that we wouldn't be involved, because we would be, but that can go to the homes in the morning for the kids that just cannot ride the bus because they have peer issues. Or being able to help us be more engaged with kids that are having lots of excused absences. How can we help with that? And also to support the folks in the schools. We have 1,300 kids in our high school, and Miss Payne is one person. And that's a lot to do. I sit with her quite often, and between the kids checking in or checking out, and her making sure that these kids are allowed to leave the building, or people coming in from the parking lot and ringing the doorbell, and her making sure they have an ID. She will not let them in even if she recognizes them unless they have an ID. And phone calls and emails and all of these ways, making sure that attendance is right, because the worst thing that happens to us is when a parent calls us and says, well, I got this letter that says my kid's been out for 7 days, but they haven't because I emailed you and said that they were gonna be gone these days. And Miss Payne just has a list this long, she hasn't been able to get there. And so then it creates this distrust with our community. And so having staff that can support our school-based interventions, being part of those attendance improvement plans, kind of being that bridge between the school and the division attendance. And then folks that can also help us roll out more positive attendance initiatives, because we are very reactionary, because we don't have a lot of wiggle room because of our capacity. And there are a lot of things that Jessica and I will say to each other, well, dang, I really wish we had more time to do this, but we don't right now, because attendance is such a big need. And we don't want to overlook it or turn our back to it, because there's such a need.
Like, I think there's probably at least 15 to 20 meetings at the high school alone where kids are at the level where they need to have a meeting happen. And I know Ms. Payne was sending out emails, so even just to have somebody assist her with that. I would like to do more. Caitlin and I have been talking about prevention and just acknowledging kind of like PBIS initiatives at the middle school and the high school focused on attendance. So celebrating the students that are having not even perfect attendance at this point, but just good attendance, and giving some more acknowledgement to that would be something that I would like to be able to spend time focusing on.
We went to Central and Carysbrook at the beginning of the year and did a positive attendance drop-off. Every parent that drove through and was dropping their kid off, we were there with our little basket in our bag and said, hey, thanks for bringing your kid to school today. And parents were like, aren't I supposed to bring my kid to school every day? But like, it was breakfast and it was a Fluco bag with our core values. And it was just a way for us to say, we see you and you are in your pajamas, but you're here. You dropped your kid off. You
And
did
it had
it.
attendance information and magnets with the phone number of the attendance person so that they knew that, hopefully making it easily accessible and convenient for them to have that information so that they could communicate.
And the last thing that I'll just say that we didn't talk a lot about was some of these families that we work with have generational substance abuse, which is research just shows there's a lot of impact on chronic absenteeism and truancy related to family substance use. And Jessica and I got to do something today that we don't get to do a lot. We got to push into our 9th grade health and PE class, and we got to talk about substance use and substance use prevention with our health and PE teachers. We would love to do that for all the kids, as many kids that would listen, but we get tied up. And so we love what we do, but we also would love a few more folks that could help us with that maybe. Yeah, that's all we got.
Thank you.
Any more
Thank you all
questions?
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, back to the budget update, Ms. Horace.
Sure. Dr. Stribling, if you could pull up the one that says 2025, 2026, 2027. So I think we previously mentioned the approved carryover request from last month's meeting was submitted to the county and is on the December 3rd Board of Supervisors meeting agenda. Also, at their October meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the non-local carryover request for FY26. That was unused state and federal funds that we were able to carry over to this year. We have also received FY26 allocations for federal funds, Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4, our special education federal funds, CT Perkins, and then we also received 2 state school security grants. So a supplemental request has been submitted to the county so that we can have those funds appropriated. If you want to click off of this and pull up the sheet that says school board packet 1125.
Ms. Soros, I imagine that the quantity of those appropriations don't meet the burden for another public hearing.
Which one, Ms. Soros?
Top one, the school board packet FY26. The first one that says. school
First
board.
attachment within the
Thank
big
you.
window.
Just wanted to kind of an update of where we are in terms of operating for expenditures. So we're running right on track for overall being around about 25%. We are a little bit high with technology at 40%, but a lot of those are those beginning of the year software licensure renewals that hit early on and then kind of level out. And then we do have a joint meeting for FY27 budget planning. That's also going to be at that December 3rd meeting. And then if you want to go to the last.
Actually, Ms. Soros, what's up with the negative number for revenue from?
So that is money that we don't have to ask the county for because we don't need to ask the county for local other this month because of other funds that we've received. So it's kind of like an offset. It does look weird.
That's an odd thing. Okay.
We have historically reported it that way.
Yeah.
Months where we haven't had to have a local county ask for revenue. It's just kind of a placeholder to make that total number balance for the month.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen.
Did I explain that badly? Okay.
It's because if you're looking at those state funds, we took in a significant amount of state funds because of the carryovers, when we were able to do the supplementals and the carryovers.
I think in the past, it might have been designated by a negative sign and not red font.
Maybe I won't put it in red next time.
Actually, I haven't,
No.
it's fine.
I think it's more
Any of
clear.
that is great.
Yeah.
It clearly calls our attention to it.
Or just in parentheses.
Sorry, so explain to me how this works again. So is that just a cash flow thing where we're appropriated X amount of dollars from the county, and they disperse it to us with a regular cadence.
Right.
And so in this particular case,
And so that would be the first column for, you know, the estimated
Sure.
revenue. And then the revenue year to date is what we've received. So the month is really just looking at your monthly revenue received, kind of where those funding sources are happening.
does this suggest that the county is not making an even distribution throughout the fiscal year?
It's not in the, even not in the fact that it's a budget, but you know, it's a specific budget amount, it's just what's needed to complete the budget. So that one. In this case, we've taken in enough funds to cover all of our bills without the county having to put any in. In July, it looks like that also.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll wanna sit a little bit more with you all and understand this a bit more. It feels like it's just cash flow management, but
It's just, and that's because you're only looking at that in 1 month in a snapshot. So we do that each, sure, Ms. Suarez, and I would love to.
yeah.
And this is not like, this is processes that have been in place, so not a change.
Yeah, I just don't think I've seen it so starkly displayed, and so it may just be a funny time in the cash flow, but
And it'll start to change as we get into doing the federal reimbursements also.
Sure.
Because that's when our federal funding, and actually, because those were just released, we'll have a big chunk of money, because we'll be able to do 3 months worth of reimbursements. So you could see it again as we're taking in more of our federal money we haven't been able to.
Mhm.
That's another way to look at it. The county sort of has to put in more while we're waiting for those federal funds to come in, if that makes sense.
got you. So it's variable cash distribution from the county based on what other sources come in.
And the unrealized part is still, that would be that last column,
yeah.
right? The unrealized of, so it's still there in the budget.
Right, yeah, and that was my point. So it's not a smooth cash flow from the county. It is based on current need and other sources of revenues that come in.
Right, as a structure.
Yeah, I don't think in my 6 years I've seen a number quite that large in the negative, certainly not red and negative. And so I think it just struck me kind of funny, but if that's clearly we've been appropriated what we've been appropriated, and the county has always been good for it, but I'm not sure that I've ever seen it done in that fashion. So thanks.
Next page or next?
Actually, if you can just go to that's just I've been keeping track of all of our supplemental and carryover totals and requests and how they impact categorical and revenue. So, and then that was the one categorical amendment request that we did back in July. I think you can go to, and there's the supplemental appropriation request for the federal and the 2 state security grants that we sent to the county. And then if you don't have any questions about FY25 or 6 or any other questions, for FY27, I did put together from our work session last month, just some of the additional information that was requested. If you'd like me to go on to FY27.
Any questions? All right, let's move on to FY27.
If you wanna play Zelda, Ocarina of Time or something, right?
Jumps on the floor.
You could just slide up to the first,
Anyone else tell the
we'll
fan?
just have to slide down to the
We're about the same age. My Game Boy got some use back in the day.
So here's a
It's not a shot.
comparison of student enrollment. And again, this is last fall's membership. It's the 25 ASRs aren't available yet, so I don't have that comparison data. I did include Buckingham as a comparison point. If you go to the next slide, again, we looked at this data at our work session for graduation rate, but that does include Buckingham now.
Can you see what those are? Just wanna make sure everybody can see where the,
Land, Weeza,
Yeah, I can
and
make it
can
Marl.
you go up a little bit, Dr. Stribling?
Blow it up.
Well, just so they can see the words at the bottom.
The labels are angled and we can't read them.
There you go.
So again, that's on-time graduation rate, which Fluvanna is second highest. If you scroll down, again, we looked at this at the work session, but division SOL reading pass rates for last spring, that now includes Buckingham. If you go to the next slide, same thing, SOL pass rates last spring for math, and I included Buckingham in the comparison. We go to the next slide. That was not that was new information. Although I was hoping that it would be that sometime this month we're supposed to get updated LCI. We haven't received that yet, so that is current LCI comparison, and we are most similar to Buckingham of the six other five.
Is the range 0.2 to 0.8, is that right?
Yes. Yep. 0.2 to 0.8. 8 is the maximum you can be. I think Goochland, if it were a true number, would be over 1. The one thing that we'd love to just get feedback from you, if you have it. A few years ago, when we did our extensive salary study for the first time, and we've updated it every year since then, but the first year we did it, we started with basically everybody in our region, not everybody in Region 5, but 13 school divisions.
A lot.
And at that time, we coalesced with the school board that we wanted to narrow that down to the divisions that we compete with. Compete meaning lose teachers to, try to compete for staffing for the most part, but also compete from the standpoint of our school community using those divisions as somewhat of a measuring stick with us. That we expect to see programs, performance, opportunities in line with what's in Charlottesville, Albemarle, Louisa. We've included Buckingham because Mr. Rittenhouse mentioned Buckingham in the last meeting, and they are very similar to us in terms of socioeconomics, at least as measured by the LCI. I don't want to assume, we don't want to assume moving forward, I think that's a good methodology. It's important to me as a superintendent thinking about recruitment and retention to think more about who we actually compete with than those that may be similar to us that we don't compete with. I do want the board to have an opportunity, just because that decision was made 4 years ago, that doesn't mean this iteration of the school board feels that way. Do you want us to continue, do you have any thoughts that you want to share about whether you want us to continue with this subset? Or do you want to see Buckingham added, other divisions like Buckingham added, Cumberland,
So
places like that?
I'm curious about the amount of staff that we get from Buckingham or whatever the other competitive set you're considering is, and how many they take from us. I think, so back when this was originated, it was Perry Johnson was mostly concerned around framing teacher salary with a competitive set of school districts that we compete for teachers with, which I think is a fair methodology. Certainly, you know, Charlottesville and Albemarle might be more aspirational as it relates to trying to keep up with the Joneses per se. But like, are we trading staff with Buckingham with regularity in the same way that we are the other divisions? No.
Depends on which way you're asking that they go.
We get teachers from Buckingham, we don't typically lose teachers to Buckingham as often. But I'd have to quantify that to give you anything other than anecdotal answer, but we're both very confident that that is true.
What about students? Do we have any way to track that? Like, I know personally in my own family, my nephew resided in Fluvanna but attended and graduated from Louisa. And granted, we are a Ken Store-based family, so it's more convenient and on the line, 250 separates the two. But I have a cousin now who they're paying to send to Moss Knuckles in Louisa as opposed to Fluvanna. So do we have any way of knowing
How many out-of-district students?
yeah, where they're going or where we're getting them from?
There are quite a
Definitely where they're coming from, we do.
Yeah, so where are they coming from?
We can put it together.
Yeah.
I
They're
would
quite
say that the push is Louisa, and one-off with Buckingham this past year. In terms
Yeah.
of just informal pattern, but we kind of work together. You know, some years, there may be 3 that transition to Louisa and 1 comes to us, whereas it flips the following year. So there's really kind of an ebb and flow, but it's a neutral.
When I met a mom in the PTA function, and she was a resident of Buckingham, but working hard to make it possible for the kids to come here, so.
So
Yeah,
I think
it's,
Sorry, please.
well, I was just gonna say, just in my experience being in Orange and Goochland, Goochland is trying to compete with the Metro Richmond area because that's where there's a threshold at which somebody would say, I'm gonna go teach there because I will make this. And so that's their concern. Green, Orange, Louisa, Fluvanna, we're thinking in terms of Charlottesville and Albemarle for the same reason, typically. I just wanted to give you an opportunity, and this isn't the only one, but as we move into this budget season, we will update these documents and we'll present this data to you, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to just voice some of that. If there is a different subset that you want to see, or a different methodology, a philosophical standpoint that some of you may have.
I imagine our special education services and teams are a big draw also if families are considering relocating, because they're pretty good, especially when we're looking at the subset, I think.
So I'll note that this competitive set has done well for us in terms of being able to frame who it is we're competing for staff with. It probably represents, by inclusion of Charlottesville and Albemarle, both sort of aspiration to be able to pay more, but also a realistic look at what's happening just some odd miles down the road. And I think that because we keep our books open and because everything that we draw and all of the salary information is presented to the supervisors, literally here are all the 5 divisions that we're competing with, and here's how we rank and or this is where we're out of alignment. I think it's both transparent and I think that the selection criteria makes some sense. I'm not sure that in a world in which we're not really losing staff to Buckingham, it makes sense to drag median or means down for the sake of inclusion. I think that we are fundamentally competing with these players here, and so I've been happy with, fine with, and able to defend the collective set for the last few years. So I don't see a change needed in the moment personally.
Anything else?
How does this factor in as far as programs that we consider like the free lunch and breakfast?
The different rates, we've got that. It's not part of this presentation, but
No, I'm just saying, like, is it useful to include a place like Buckingham to get a perspective when it comes
Absolutely.
to that number?
They used to be included in the comparisons, like say 4 or 5 years ago.
we can definitely put that in there.
And the next slide is comparison of per pupil that we already looked at, but I did include Buckingham, and we haven't looked at this in a while, and I did triple check that number, and I keep looking at that number for Buckingham because
It's helpful to see.
back in I think it was
Glad you put it in.
yeah, back in 2020 they were at just under 14,000 as a per pupil, and their per pupil is now 17,800. If you go to the next slide, I think that.
They're spending more per pupil than Fluvanna, Goochland, or Louisa.
But I do think it's helpful to see what revenue, where the funding sources are. So blue is local, red is state, yellow is federal. So if you look at Buckingham State and state, compared to its local dollars. They are spending less local dollars than we are, but they have more state and federal.
Federal number is pretty big.
Mhm.
I imagine that's somewhat income-based. What do you think makes up the largest difference between what we receive in federal and what Buckingham does?
Imagine some of it is like need-based,
And
especially
a lot
for
of it,
like.
the rate that you
That's
mentioned,
kind of what I was getting at, yeah.
that's definitely the case in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and that makes me think
And
it's
Goochland.
needs-based.
For why that one's so small. The free and reduced rate, but also their composite.
On the next slide is a comparison for, I think there was a request for kindergarten class size comparison for just averages, so pretty well in line in terms of teacher-student ratio. Again, we looked at staffing comparison by division. I included Buckingham. Red is, I don't know if you could, there we go. Red is the number of division instructional positions per 1,000. And I was surprised that Buckingham does have more division instructional staff per 1,000 compared to us. Yellow is teachers, green is instructional aides, so that was definitely an area that I think we were number 2 for number of instructional aides per 1,000. And then blue is the number of principals and assistant principals, and again, that number is per 1,000 students.
Buckingham's pretty high.
They're spending more and they have more admin staff, but if you go back in the previous slides, their results are not the same as ours. So
Yes.
perhaps the money doesn't always lead to results. Maybe I'm sure they're trying. We still have a lot of students trying to come to trying to come to Fluvanna.
So end of scale teacher salary comparison. The bottom chart, I did a look to see where the steps were ending, and they were kind of all over the place for the 200-day teacher contract in terms of, we went to step 35, Buckingham went to 37, Charlottesville stopped at step 29, Louisa went all the way up to step 40. So I itemized out kind of information about what those end of scales looked like in terms of, if you had a bachelor's, some were giving masters or masters plus 30, but I was trying to figure out a way to compare, so I decided to use step 29 towards the end, just since that was where Charlottesville kind of topped out at, and so there's a kind of a ranking of step 29 on the teacher scale.
And that's really helpful, but and also I can't remember who asked it, but there was a question related to how we are handling people at the top of the teacher scale.
I asked the question.
Okay, so that first column that she has, the 200-day teacher, I think that is helpful there just to see. What that means is in Albemarle, once you hit step 32, you're gonna get a cost of living increase beyond that. There is no step 33, 34, 35. In Buckingham, it's 37. I think the comparison is often us to Louisa, and you can see Louisa, people are gonna advance a step up to 40 years.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that we shouldn't continue to consider in budget season as to whether or not to set those additional steps up. I've certainly,
Extend the scale?
yeah, I've gotten some feedback from more senior teachers about feeling discouraged to return and or not feeling valued by comparison to their colleagues who have a little bit less experience than them. Certainly as people continue to work longer out of necessity and or because of somewhat rising life expectancy, we certainly don't want to lose a teacher who would like to continue for another couple of years but feels like the juice isn't worth the squeeze when they're only getting COLA. And so, I'm not sure how large a cohort that is, but it's something that we should at least consider in our sort of like broad framing budget considerations.
And then the next slide was just some of the additional information about health insurance at the top, just in terms of comparison this year to last year in terms of how many elected coverage and then how many participated last year in the wellness and the year-to-date of the number of people currently participating in wellness, the wellness program this year.
Do you have a round number for total staff before elect coverage? So the universe is
580?
Just under, yeah.
Just under 6. That's helpful. I think I caught a 20% increase in health insurance this year, which is pretty atypical for my industry.
And then that was all the new information. But certainly if there's other things that since we last talked, that you'd like me to bring to the table next time, that would be helpful to see.
Yeah, so those are direct responses to questions that the board asked. This is moving into the meeting December 3rd, and then obviously we don't have information about what to anticipate from the state. The governor releases the budget typically December 17, 18, 19, whatever that Friday is. But these are the variables that will make a difference to us, and when we have them, our conversations will be.
Believe it when I see it. What are we gonna get first, the budget or our last year's certification data? The state's super late on, sorry.
You mean accreditation?
Accreditation, that's the word I couldn't find in the moment, yeah.
We have had
Well,
no information.
Flip a coin, see what happens.
The proposal typically comes in December. The actual allocation sometimes gets held up in the spring. If that's what you're referring to, yeah.
Any other questions?
I do wanna thank you for all the data. I know that I ask more than my fair share of questions.
And I don't wanna lose, if you go back one, just very quickly, just wanna make sure that last bullet isn't lost on anybody. The governor released that all-in funding, that expires at the end of this fiscal year, so.
Can you remind us what the approximate size of our current?
Cause we got about 1.1 million and we decided to spread it out over 3 years, and so our last chunk that we're using this year on salaries is $368,000.
Thank you. Could we, for December, could you just email potentially what the positions are that's inside the 368, so that if a supervisor asks us what we're going to do and or what are the positions that may or may not go unfunded next year, we have a bit of a cheat sheet for the all-in stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Soares, for including Buckingham. I found it useful, it's a very good comparison, LCI anyway. I know Buckingham school system has more students than Fluvanna.
I think they're like 1,200.
That surprised me too. Yeah, they were
They're lower.
1,800 students now. Because I know a lot of it surprised me because we hadn't looked at Buckingham in a number of years. So.
Thank you.
What's next? The textbook adoption committee?
Recent legislation requires all local school boards to adopt and implement textbooks and other high-quality curriculum materials for K-12 math, English, history, and science. Previously, we adopted K-5 literacy and implemented last school year, and that was per the Virginia Literacy Act legislation, so we have a little bit less that we have to do, but In your packet for first review and asking for approval next month are curriculum adoption committees, one for K-5 math, 612 math, and 612 English. Our timeline would be after receiving board approval of the committees to participate in a review of a couple of different curriculum adoptions that have been approved by the state January through early March, and then to be able to bring a recommendation in March to the school board meeting for first review. In terms of timeline and getting materials into teachers' hands prior to the end of the year, if we have to implement new curriculum next school year, it would be really great to purchase in April and then, have the materials in May and June for some summer work, so that we can feel prepared. We are expected to receive by the end of November updated material lists for science and history, and then we plan to move forward once we have those materials to move forward with committee reviews for those two subject areas next semester.
Any questions?
I know that there was some funding related to the Literacy Act and some amount of unfunded mandates. Are we anticipating having to do some significant capital outlays in order to shore up our literacy?
Do you mean,
Curriculum.
so like when we adopted the K-5 literacy curriculum, part of that 1.1 million for all-in funding, we were allowed to use, I think, 20% of it to support the K-5 literacy adoption. There hasn't been any kind of funding sources like that, so, we did get about $200,000 in the template for textbooks this year. We also carry over about almost $300,000 in textbook monies that we didn't spend last year, and so we're hoping to leverage and make that amount work.
Right, so we don't need to build a wedge in for additional curriculum related lump sum.
There's a possibility, so again, timeline in terms of us having a list that we can actually review for history and science. I mean, it really just depends on what materials we the committees recommend and costs associated. I do think what we currently have will cover K-12 just in looking at the options that they have, and I did price out what they were looking at. I think what we have right now will cover K-12 math and our 612 literacy. Not so sure about science and history, so there's a good chance that I know that it's implementation next year, but we might be having to not be able to purchase those materials and have it be a budget request, just depending.
If nothing changes, I think it is very possible that every school division in the state will struggle with the unintended, unfunded part of that mandate.
Yeah, and do we have a relative scope of how much in overage we would need in order to buy those books?
Well, we still don't know what.
Well, we don't have a list, so we don't have a price point.
For the history science, yeah, that's my thing. Like, I've been able to kind of ballpark estimate for English and math, but end of November, we're supposed to have the list for science and history, so then I'll have a better idea.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, we are on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business for the board? All right, on to new business, the time change for the December school board meeting. We already have a school board meeting planned in December. Is it December 11th?
Quickly.
I don't recall either.
Regular meeting.
A regular.
It's the regular meeting, yeah.
The 10th? Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right, the 10th.
And you all want to move the meeting start date back, was it a half an hour or an hour?
We're asking to move closed session from 5:30 to 4:30.
Okay.
In order to host a reception by that time, we will have our teachers of the year at each school, our support staff of the year, and we want to host a little reception from 5:45 to the start of the meeting. So the school board meeting would stay at 6:30. It's closed session that would move.
Okay, I don't believe we
Earlier.
don't need a vote for that.
I think we do. Our notices have the start time of closed session in it, so it's easy enough.
We can vote on it, but we changed closed session literally a day before without a vote. Yeah, Brandy's shaking her head yes. If you guys want to vote on it, that's fine. You need to move it to an action item and we will, but I don't think legally we need to.
And then since we're talking about it publicly, is the 5:45 to 6:30 a closed reception or a public reception?
Well, I don't want to speak for Ms. Kreitzer because she's going to do some planning, obviously, but I think it would be an open, I mean, anybody that wanted to come could come. It would just be here.
Is the will of the board to move the meeting time,
Yes.
Randy? Okay, we're good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
On to action items. We only have one action item, that is the approval of the PrEP financial MOU. I have that.
Actually, in new business, I don't know if Dr. Gritz, did you intend to introduce our newest SRO or?
I'd love to.
If-
Yeah,
if you
Dr.
can.
Stribling, I know you met with Officer Hidden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I was
please.
able to, yeah, absolutely. Was able to meet with Officer Herring this week, came on board last week.
Yes, sir.
After the break. Can tell very quickly that he is going to be, to contribute to the relationships and the structure with our kids at Fluvanna High School, along with the division. You probably say, well, how do you know that? You've only met him once. I just saw him when he was talking about children, and that is very, very important to me. Structure, responsibility, and accountability are also important, and I can tell he brings that as well. So we are very blessed to have him on board, so.
Welcome.
Welcome.
That was pretty good for you, wasn't it? All right.
I can't ask for a better introduction to that. No, I'm glad to be on board. I'm really excited for it. Wanted to do this for quite a few years. As Dr. Strickland said, my main goal is to get in there, start with building relationships with the kids and the staff and moving from there. And hopefully all these things that you guys are talking about tonight, especially attendance and grades and things like that, my goal is to get in there, build these relationships with these kids, figure out what's going on with them, what's holding them back, and hopefully contribute to helping them do better in those areas. So anything you guys need, please let me know. I'm an open book. So. Thank you guys.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have one action item, approval of the PrEP financial MOU, which I believe I have right here. Yes.
Yes, sir, and that's something we do annually. There's no changes there. I mean, I'm happy to go through any aspects of it, but it spells out exactly what that relationship has looked like in the past, just something we need to update this year.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the PrEP financial MOU.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the PrEP financial MOU. Is there any discussion?
Good.
All right, all those in favor of approving the PrEP financial MOU, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. All right, we are on to our second round of public comment. The expectations are the same. If you are a Fluvanna County citizen or employee of the public school system, you're welcome to speak. Please provide your name and voting district and do not exceed 3 minutes. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Any?
Good evening, Amanda Galloway. I live in the Fork Union District, and I'm also an employee of Fluvanna County. I'm the assistant Commonwealth attorney that handles all the juvenile cases that come through our court system. So I'm glad you all were able to hear the presentation about chronic absenteeism, because it is a major problem and I see it in my work every day. If you look at the Virginia Department of Education statistics, Fluvanna County High School has one of the worst chronic absenteeism rates in the entire county, or in the entire state. If you look at the statistics and look even deeper into our most at-risk youth, our economically disadvantaged youth, I pulled the statistics for the 23 to 24 school year. For 8th graders that are economically disadvantaged, the chronic absenteeism rate was 43.4%. For 9th grade, 40.6%. For 10th grade, 55.5%. 11th grade, 52.6%, and 12th grade, 66.3%. So those are some pretty shocking statistics. I see it every day in the kids that end up in court for truancy cases, and as you learned earlier today, that is for kids that are specifically unexcused absences. So this does not include excused absences. The reasons that I hear are vast. We hear, just unfortunately, there are some families that just don't value education, and that's part of it. But the majority of I see is not that. We have minor issues with things like bullying, But then we have much more severe issues. We have families that don't have running water, so the kids don't have clean clothes to wear to school, and so they don't want to come to school. We have kids that have to stay home and watch younger siblings because parents work. We have kids that have parents that have severe mental health or substance abuse issues, and so they don't feel safe going to school. We have children that have severe mental health issues. We have children that have severe physical health issues that the parents aren't able to take care of, and so they're not able to come to school. We have children that are victims of crime. Unfortunately, we see a lot of sexual violence. We have children that have substance abuse issues themselves. And this is not the THC vapes that we see at the schools. These are kids that are using meth and fentanyl. So what do we do about it? As you heard about today, there's a lot of work groups that are working to address this, but there's just not enough of us. That's just the raw reality of this community. And we as a community, not just the school system, need to work on prevention. That applies to the court system, that applies to social services, that applies to food services, but it also applies to the schools. And when it comes to budget season, unfortunately, we just have to talk about the reality of numbers. And so one of the things that I want to present you all to, and I'd ask you all to look at the Children's Services Act website, which is csa.virginia.gov, and look at the statistics for the cost of putting a child into foster care or putting the child into residential care, because our most at-risk kids end up in court. That is well, some of them have delinquency, but some of them end up in foster care and residential. And I just want to read you some statistics. For fiscal year 24, the foster care rate for children per child was $22,759 per child. For residential, it was $25,238. For fiscal year 25, foster care was $21,421, so about the same as the year before. And residential costs went up to $42,111 per child. It jumped to $20,000 per kid for residential treatment. And so when you think about addressing the kids that end up in residential, you can save a substantial amount of money, enough that you could fund a full-time position by just keeping a couple kids out of residential. And so what I'd ask you all to do when considering your budget and looking at ways to fund prevention efforts that are really hard to measure on paper, because if you're doing it right, you shouldn't be seeing the issues because they've been prevented. But think about the $20,000 per kid that's happening with residential treatment. And the CSA coordinator has already gone to the board of supervisors once to ask for more money this year. She's probably going to go back and ask for more money again. And so that's an area where we can make a big difference as a community. And I've seen it firsthand with the schools. The young ladies that you heard from today, oftentimes with kids end up in court, the judge will ask you, is there anybody in the school system that you feel particularly close to? And there's 3 names that I hear all the time. One is Rob Silverman, especially when he was still at Abrams. The other one is Caitlin Harlow-Berner, and the name that I hear every day, over and over and over again, is Jessica Lavin. So I just have you all take that into consideration when you're considering your budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? All right, hearing none, we will close the second round of public comment. And we are on to school board member comments. I will start with Ms. Sheridan.
Thank you. I got a feedback that because people who are watching online were having trouble hearing me. I got some messages. So do I need to speak up, or am I not in the right place? Or
Mike says keep it quiet.
okay. So yeah, thank you, Ms. Galloway. We had some somewhat spirited discussion during our last budget session, and I see both sides of it, but it's always helpful when we hear from allied professionals in the same community that are the next step in the process of what they think might be helpful. So I think what I heard was that the positions that right now might just be half-time would be something that definitely Ms. Harlow-Berner, Ms. Lavin, and Ms. Galloway all support at this point. So I think that would be helpful when we discuss that with the Board of Supervisors. I want to share just with the community and with my fellow board members things I'm hearing from parents, staff, and students. I'm hearing a couple of people asking for consideration as we move into the budget for another school nurse, particularly for Central, for the smaller children. Several concerns about food service issues from parents, staff, and students, about the consistency and quality, adjusting, reducing, eliminating admission to sporting events for students. And I did get a lovely sticker from Miss Valentine about living our values. It's really cool. And I've had a lot of people ask me about it. It's a good conversation starter. It's one of those vinyl stickers for your water bottle or computer. That was a really cool thing. And I think for a low level investment, it's gotten a lot of return, at least for me. Elections are over. It looks like we're going to have some transitions coming with the board. So I'm excited to work with new members and exit for my short time here. And I want to thank everybody for having me. And then also earlier they talked about a compliment that our school system received, particularly as it pertains to Central, after they took a field trip to the Children's Museum in Richmond. And I attended that field trip, and I feel the same way about that facility and the educators that spent time with us there. It was really just a wonderful all-around day. And I say that having twin 6-year-olds there, one of whom who's on the spectrum and who did get overstimulated and needed to use some of the quiet space and reset and rejoin. And he was able to do that in a respectful manner where it wasn't disruptive to other people, and he was able to rejoin the fun pretty quickly, and everybody felt really supported. And I'm really glad that he didn't make the comment, you know, especially that one kid. So yeah, we had a great time.
Anything else? All right, Mr. Kelly?
So I've done my best to kind of be around and get to school events. Obviously, I can't remember now exactly when the candidate forum was, but I enjoyed watching that and seeing the members up for election communicating and in dialogue with students. I've learned a lot about 6-7s and waffles and pancakes, as the case may be. And tomorrow, I don't know what I'm walking into, but at 9 a.m. at the high school, there will be some form of debate related to pancakes and waffles, neither of which I eat, but I will be enjoying the public discourse as it's served to us. It's always great to see student accolades. There was a lot with regards to athletics in terms of our students performing incredibly well. We got some individual honors as it relates to music and arts and some collective wins on that space as well. And so it's lovely to see those. I have not gotten a ton of direct feedback as it relates to budget yet, although I'll note that all things related, attendance, mental health, et cetera, are sobering and are not flash in the pan, gonna go away on their own. And so I think it means that we need to do some critical self-reflection as it relates to our values and the way that we ultimately invest in our students and our staff. And so I expect it to be a difficult budget season ahead, but per usual, I am up for the fight. Thank you.
Mr. Rittenhouse?
Yes, I'll reiterate what James and Nikki both already said. Thank you everybody for all their work and information. One thing I do want to bring up, and I remember vividly from last year in our November meeting, nothing was said at all about veterans. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and I want to remember the veterans and anybody that served. Anybody in here served? Thank you very much. Thank you. My own father was a combat veteran in Korea, as was 4 of his 6 brothers. Not in Korea, but combat veterans. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the information and get a chance to come to the football game on Friday night. It's a good opportunity for the football team. Like I think they said earlier, the first time they've won 7 games in 25 years, which is pretty cool. And also the November 22nd event. I've been to the event probably the last 2 or 3 times. It's a fantastic event. I remember last year, I think they had leftover turkey. So let's please spread the word. I know there's a lot of need in the community. It's a free turkey, you know, please let people know that opportunity. Turkey, clothes, it's a great event. So make sure. Bounce houses, okay, awesome.
You're making it bigger and better every year.
Awesome.
I think I'm out of that weight class.
Do you remember who the team was, or who the quarterback was of the team 25 years ago when they had that good team?
Good luck.
I know you know.
I do.
John Sheridan and Corey, was it Corey?
Shirk.
Oh, Corey Shirk, that's right.
John and Corey were there.
That's right.
They had a very good season.
I remember that year very well. Anyways, that's all I got. Anything else from the board?
Yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to say too, I am super excited that we have another SRO joining us. I've been a little bit passionate about that. And I do want to say I perused the social postings that the sheriff's office put out, and I saw lots of positive feedback from community members that I know very well, and from colleagues who are law enforcement officers or retired law enforcement officers. So I feel like, you know, you're definitely coming well recommended. And I also want to say, I don't know if we addressed it, perhaps we did, but the first time I've thought to since Miss Booker has passed. So I do want to kind of remember her also. And she had a lifetime in education and really was one of those people who students still write and remember fondly as following them along and, you know, being that one person they could reach out to when they were kind of hard to reach or experiencing some sort of disadvantage. So I think that's important.
And she'll be honored at the school, at the high school, Sunday at 3 p.m. Does that sound right?
Definitely Sunday.
I wrote it
It's
down.
on my calendar for 3 o'clock.
Yep.
3 o'clock.
Hearing nothing else?
How about SRO?
Hearing nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion and a second to adjourn.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
This is the fastest meeting we've been to.